Eye Contact, a Mark Manning Mystery, Book 2. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Wednesday, June 30th. David awakes early the next morning, well before 6. He didn't think to close the blinds in his room when he finally went to bed last night, and the eastern sun now skims across the water and through the window, reflected in the dresser mirror targeting his bed. It hurts to open his eyes. His nipples are sore, his face is sore, abraded by the night stubble of another man's beard, and his penis is sore. But these are minor agonies, the price of an evening's pleasure, a bargain by any measure. He lies in the bedroom at the far end of the cabin alone. He and Manning shared every known intimacy, and invented a few new ones, in front of the fire last night. With their repertoire exhausted, it was finally time to sleep, and each took to his own bed. Half awake now, blinded by daylight, he kicks the covers off the bed and feels his genitals. His morning erection invites attention, and the escapades of a few hours ago are still fresh enough in his mind to fuel some steamy jack-off fantasies. So he gives it a shot, but quickly concludes that his efforts will get him nowhere. There's simply nothing left for now. Lacking sufficient energy to get out of bed and close the blinds, he rolls over, shading his face with an arm. There's time for more sleep, but it's so quiet up here. No traffic, no car alarms, no garbage trucks, nothing. Well, birds, sure. A hungry duck. God, that's annoying. And what's that other sound? Movement in the cabin? Beyond the living room? Mark? Was that the door? Someone is being careful to be quiet, but David has definitely heard the sound of the screen door. He puts on his glasses, gets out of bed, finds his workout shorts, steps into them, and pads out of the bedroom to explore. There's a light on in the bathroom, as if Manning was in there earlier, while it was still dark. The living room is much as they left it last night. No particular disarray, just a couple of empty glasses. The spent embers of the fire smolder like a tired cliché, a tangible metaphor there in the grate. David pokes his head through the doorway into Manning's bedroom and finds that he's already up and packed. Bed made. What a neatnik. But Manning isn't in the room. The outside door is open, so David crosses to it, folding his arms over his chest to shield his cold, sensitive nipples from the damp morning air. Through the screen, he sees Manning with a terry cloth towel, wiping one of the car windows, wet with dew. He's scrubbing intently, frowning. "Hey there," says David, speaking in a stage whisper that seems appropriate to the early hour. Manning looks up. "Hey there yourself," he smiles. "I'm sorry if I woke you." "No, of course not." Awkward pause. David asks, "Why the big rush?" "No rush." Towel in hand, Manning comes to the door and steps inside. "I had trouble sleeping. Thought I'd better make myself useful." He sets the towel on a dresser and unzips his jacket, seeing that David is shivering. He closes the door. By the way, he gives David a hug, not a kiss. Nothing intimate. "Good morning." David holds on to Manning a moment longer than Manning intended. "Yeah, good morning." He picks the side of Manning's face. "Let's talk, David." "Sure." David sits on the edge of the bed, hands folded in his lap. Manning paces once in front of him, turns to address him, but does not look him in the eye. Predictably, but uncertainly, Manning begins. "About last night." "Mark," David interrupts. "Let me make this easier for you. I know you're committed to Neil. I don't want to wreck what you've got, and even if I did want to, I doubt if I could. I understand that you have qualms about what happened, and because you do, I do, but I've got to tell you, it was prime." He grins up at Manning, his boyish features flushed with the morning afterglow of a sated libido. He really is a sight, sitting there on the bed, twiddling his toes. It's enough to lure anyone into a quick romp. Manning isn't blind, and he's only human. His knees go weak at the very thought of what he could have, right now, again, if he gave the slightest hint of interest. His guilt, after all, is already complete. They have plenty of time. Another hour's ecstasy may prove anticlimactic, but it won't make his soul any blacker. And He'll get no gold stars for refraining. He need only extend a finger to touch that little silver barbell, and David will be ready for action. They may never have this opportunity again, but even as Manny weighs these possibilities, he knows there's a flaw to his premise. The cold truth, the summation of the issue that robbed his sleep, is that he feels little, if any, guilt about last night. What troubles him most this morning is the feeling that he should feel guilty, plus the knowledge that Neil will never be able to appreciate the incident so analytically. If he finds out about it, and Manning is further vexed by the question of how much, if anything, he should tell Neil, he knows as surely as he breathes that he was powerless to ignore the unexpected stimulus that confronted him last night. He was sapped of his will. Not that he was morally weak or lacked integrity, but rather he simply could not fail to react as he did, and a jury of 12 reasonable peers would surely conclude that he must be held blameless, not guilty. This morning's situation, though, is another matter. By virtue of last night's experience, he now knows exactly what erotic power David holds over him. Last night was something like temporary insanity, but that's a defense that cannot be invoked twice. Opening himself to future sex with the kid would brand Manny with the blackest, lowest stripe of guilt. Even so, he tells David, "You're right. Last night was indeed prime. I'd be a liar to tell you otherwise, but it can never happen again. David, it will never happen again. Do you understand that?" "I understand," he sighs. "I don't like it, but I understand." Confident that they're in sync, Manning sits next to David on the bed, telling him, "I hope this won't affect our relationship at work. I mean, you've been doing a great job for the Journal, and during the past week I've truly grown fond of you, getting to know each other as we have." David's grin almost erupts into laughter. "I mean," Manning clarifies, "I've grown fond of you as a friend. Neil has, too. I hope we can continue to see each other socially. The three of us." "I wish Neil had been here last night," says David. "So do I. Then nothing would have happened, and we wouldn't be in the midst of an awkward conversation this morning." "Like hell." David is wide-eyed. He rests his arm across Manning's shoulder. "Neil could have joined us. Talk about rad." "He isn't joking." Manning offers no comment. "Hey," David continues, dropping his arm, drawing one knee onto the bed so he can face Manning. "Why not? I don't want to come between you guys, but in the literal sense," he trails off suggestively. David has painted a vivid picture, and Manning's mind sketches at least a dozen variations of the contorted scene. Might David's suggestion be something that Neil would actually buy into? Manning knows that it would signal a subtle but deep shift in their relationship. What would it mean? As a couple, would they be stronger or weaker as a result of it? He tells David, "It's an intriguing notion, but not yet. I don't know if I'm ready for that, or ever will be." "Squaresville!" Rising from the bed, Manning shrugs with a smile. "I'm old." "Sure, Gramps." David also rises, plants his hands on his hips, and eyes Manning up and down. "All I know is this kid got the work out of his life last night." "Really? Oh, well." Manning decides that if he doesn't switch topics, this conversation will get him into trouble. He suggests, "Why don't you start putting yourself together? I've got some fussing to do with the car, then we can tackle a major breakfast before we leave." That sounds just fine to David. Nodding, he starts to leave the room, but stops in the doorway to the living room. Facing Manning, he leans against the jamb, nipple ornaments glistening. Big smile. "Seriously, Mark, it was incredible last night." And he turns, leaving the room. Manning stands there, mulling all that has happened, uncertain how or when to broach it with Neil. Then he shakes his head, dismissing these thoughts for now. He grabs the damp towel that he dropped onto the dresser and picks up another, a dry one. Zipping up his jacket, he opens the door and steps outside. Though it did not rain overnight, everything is wet with dew, including the car parked beneath the drooping branches of pines. Its black paint appears beaded and frosty, littered with needles and flecks of stuff dropped from the trees. After yesterday's long drive, Manning wanted to get the car washed, but he and David haven't left the resort since their arrival. And now it's almost time to return. Since the car is normally garaged overnight, Manny was unprepared for the sight that awaited him this morning. At first, disheartened. He can't stand the idea of setting out for a long drive in a dirty car. He then resolved to take advantage of the situation. Since the car is thoroughly wet, he can at least wipe it down, hoping to swab away yesterday's road film, as well as the overnight detritus from the trees. Sort of a sponge bath. It's worth a try, Manning tells himself, making a mental note that he should always store paper towels and some glass cleaner in the trunk. He starts with the hood, the most crucial target of his efforts. He picks away needles one by one, then sets to work with the bathroom towels, the damp one followed by the dry one, swirling the second towel, hoping to buff up a shine. Manning soon learns that while he can dry the car, he cannot clean it. It was peppered with droplets of sap and visible beneath the dew, but now smeared by the towel, causing a random pattern of ugly swipes to appear on the paint. He cannot simply whisk away the grime. Hot water, sudsy with detergent, is needed to cleanse it. Giving up on the hood, he works his way to the side panels, and then he notices it a stone, possibly an errant chunk of gravel that had spilled from a driveway to the road, has dinged the front passenger's door. There's a dimple in the metal, and at its center, the period-sized crater of a missing chip of paint. The sturdy sedan, which was perfect, in which Manning had invested his pride as well as his cash, has been tainted. Though the damage is slight, indeed, this loss of automotive innocence was inevitable. It must be patched, quickly and thoroughly, lest it spread, corroding the car to its very frame. Manning rubs the pitted, exposed metal with his fingertip, nursing the wound with a dab of spit. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.